I don't know what that means, but okay.
For Juan.
Oh, yeah.
We're live, guys.
Yeah.
We're live? Okay, well, that means that I have to play the darn music, except now it's on Twitter. Why is it on Twitter? Okay, good.
Yes. This is how this show is going to go.
We go hands-on with the Moto Z and Z Force. Does Motorola have the right recipe for modular phones? Now, what is Google's Project Tango? And what is augmented reality doing on the Lenovo Phab 2 Pro? Also, we'll cover some of the rumors surrounding WWDC this year if I can get any of this language out of my face. What might Apple have up its sleeves? Make sure you're charged and ready for episode 204 of the Pocketnow Weekly. Well, this weekly podcast is where we dissect and discuss those gadgets that make our lives mobile. Smartphones, tablets, and wearables, it's all the stuff you wished existed when you were a kid, and your modular gadgets were Legos. I'm Juan Bagnell, senior editor at Pocketnow.com, blasting the signal from sunny Southern California. And rounding out our techie trio this week, I am joined by also senior editor at Pocketnow.com, Mr. Adam Doud.
Talking is hard, and I'm going to have to insist that you call me Mr. Kutcher for the rest of this podcast.
We have some stuff to talk about there, I'm sure. And of course, podcast producer Mr. Jules Wang. How's it out on the East Coast for you today?
It's doing all right. You know, Talking is Hard is actually the name of a great album from Walkman. It's great.
It should be the name of this podcast.
We lost most of that audio, Jules.
That's true.
It's going to be a fun show, ladies and gentlemen, but we've got some cool stuff to cover, and so hopefully we'll keep it all on track. The time on the West Coast is 11 a.m. Now, guys, I'm excited. We have a new sponsor this week, Atlassian. Atlassian produces collaboration software for teams, from startup to enterprise size. Atlassian offers solutions for tracking complex tasks with their JIRA management software. And Atlassian Confluence provides a platform for creating content and sharing assets between various team members. And while creating, collaborators can discuss in real time through instant message or video chat on their HipChat service. And lastly, Bitbucket provides a powerful platform to test, manage, and review code in real time. Now, we work in a collaborative environment here at Pocketnow.com, but we're spread out all over the world. And so we have all of these disparate and separate solutions for trying to manage information and trying to coordinate on projects. And actually, Adam, I'm kind of happy that we have you on this week, especially with the sponsors. You mentioned in an email chain that you've actually worked with Atlassian in a job that you were recently on. And I was hoping that you could share some thoughts on what they brought to the table for streamlining your workflow.
Sure, yeah. At my day job, we use a lot of Atlassian products, HipChat. We use JIRA for our project management. We're a software developer, so a lot of our bug tracking and a lot of our tasks that need to get done go straight into JIRA, so that we can, knock them out and knock them off the list as we need to. But we use HipChat to stay in touch because a lot of our team is also remote, not dissimilar to Pocketnow.
Right.
So if we need to send each other files or links or cat pictures, whatever, HipChat is our medium of choice. So we use I think we use Bitbucket. That's a little bit outside my purview. But we use a lot of their products. So it is actually pretty cool that they're sponsoring our Pocketnow show here.
Yeah, I was stoked to get the message on them jumping in. This is something that we've been taking a look at behind the scenes here, and I think for a lot of companies, a lot of businesses, especially people startups especially, where the notion of having a giant monolithic office building where everybody trudges in a white short sleeve shirt and a black tie and sits at their cubicle and pounds out stuff on a keyboard is an antiquated idea. And so coordinating this data is becoming a more precious situation for a lot of companies out there. So an organization like Atlassian, which can sort of provide you a number of different tools and packages, like individual tool kits to help you manage your products and manage your projects better, I think is going to be a very interesting solution moving forward for a lot of companies into the future. So see how your team might benefit from this platform and collaboration Atlassian has to offer. See how JIRA, Confluence, HipChat, and Bitbucket can give your team everything you need to organize, discuss, and complete shared work. You can find more information at www.atlassian.com, and we thank them for sponsoring this week's episode of the Pocketnow Weekly.
Holla!
Holla! So, we should probably jump into some actual tech news. Let's talk some tech, guys.
Well,
yeah, let's do it.
Let's hold up. Let's up on that because we also have to get people on the conversation, right?
You know what? We probably should. I'm jumping the gun here
He's
because I'm
working.
excited, and we've got a ton of people in the Q&A already that are already jumping
You have to
into
understand
that stuff
people
too.
because
So.
Juan went to the Lenovo Tech World event, and he had his fill there. He was up all night building videos for our coverage here at Pocketnow, and then he was also up the night before. And yeah, that's not
I'm
really
a little
good
foggy
combination.
today, guys, but that I think will add to the fun and enjoyment of loopy podcast hosts.
Exactly.
So,
We're all at the end of the week, so hey, you might want to hop into our YouTube page if we're broadcasting live, and hit the Hangouts little bar that says, "Hey, you want to hop into Hangouts? Hop into Hangouts, and ask your questions in our Q&A panel. You can upvote other people's questions so that they can easily get theirs answered. Hopefully, yours will be answered too. And if time does not allow for it to be answered, well, you can just hit us up at podcast@pocketnow.com. So, email, podcasting, blah, 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 Hangouts. It's great.
it's all good, but we've got some cool stuff to talk about.
Yes, we do.
All right. And it starts off with this Lenovo Tech. You were there. You were just there.
Yes. I flew up. It was in San Francisco. It was Lenovo Tech World. Everything about the tech products that we're going to be talking about this week are bad tongue twisters for me. So we should do a drinking game on how often Juan ties something up. And then, like Jules was so kind to mention, this was a one-day trip for me. I had to fly up there, cut video, fly back. I'm a little wasted. But then I was sitting on the runway at SFO for almost an hour and a half before we actually got into the air. And sitting right next to me in the middle seat is this tiny little woman who was just dry hack coughing all over everybody around her for the entire time. This little... And so now I'm also like, I'm pretty sure I'm sick. So if my voice just suddenly dies in the middle of this, that's why, guys. I'll finish the podcast out through sign language and interpretive dance.
Sure.
Yeah,
So-
I can definitely see that in audio.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So Motorola, we've got all of the scoops that you would like to scoop on the Moto Z. We got to check them out firsthand. Go hands-on with the Moto Z and the Z Force. This is an exciting new push from Motorola. This really does feel like the first proper Moto Lenovo phone. So when Lenovo originally sort of optioned and bought out Motorola, we could be pretty sure that Motorola had products in the pipeline. This really feels like that first product that is coming directly from this partnership, a fresh, new approach to combining the talents of both of these companies. And so we went hands-on with the Moto Z. It is shockingly thin. They're saying it's the thinnest premium smartphone on the market, and I'm inclined to believe them because it makes a Galaxy S7 feel a little on the chunky side when you hold them side by side. And we've got the standard suite of Motorola sensors. You can wave your hand over the screen and it lights up part of the screen. We've got this fingerprint sensor, which is going to divide a lot of people down below the screen. It's not a home button. It's just a fingerprint sensor, and you have on-screen navigation controls. So I know that, especially people in our audience who care about design and ergonomics, there are going to be a lot of very critical responses to that. And then, of course, the big talking points are no headphone jack. We're dumping the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, and everything's going to be going over either USB-C or Bluetooth, and that this is the first phone of a platform of devices for Motorola where we're going to have modular pieces. So there are these little magnetic pins on the bottom of the phone, and Motorola executives had a lot of fun taking shots at LG's solution for modular devices. On our phones, you don't need to pull out the battery or reboot the phone if you just want to add more, battery life or a camera grip.
Zing!
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, so there were a lot of shots fired moments throughout this press conference and throughout this show. But, again, it's at least, I think, a step in the right direction for what we might be able to do to tailor fit phones for specific people. So you get this basic phone, it's skinny, it's pretty, it's got a good camera, it's got a great screen, and then if you want to have the much better speaker playback, you don't have to have boom sound speakers built into your phone. You can add a speaker dock to the back. Or if you want to have a projector, or if you want to have just a double-sized battery, you can make that choice based on your usage for what it is that you value on your phone. So I think it's a step in the right direction for this conversation, because we're going to have a number of these devices coming down the pipe, I think, especially with rumors pointing to a Project Aura release early next year. This is setting the stage, and I think Motorola at least has a solution here which I think will be a bit more appealing to third-party developers. I think that they'll probably gain a bit more traction on this than LG has with their LG friends. In fact, one of the launch partners is JBL, so they already have a name brand coming out for a speaker dock. One of their primary battery solutions is coming from Incipio and Toomey, and so you've got two companies building batteries right there, and then you've got Kate Spade, so you even have like this fashion brand that's going to be associated with the product already at launch, with a number of other products coming down the pipeline, rumors about camera grips. They're actually showing this on video right now thanks to Jules, where they had this like a laser keyboard demo, which just looks super cool in a very Tron kind of way. And so I think we'll see some really cool stuff from Motorola and Lenovo with this product line.
It seems really cool. The only thing that I'm really super concerned about is the connection between the phone and the modular pieces. You actually went heads on with that. So can you speak to like how secure the connection is? Because the Motorola website says, quote, super strong magnets, which I don't know about you, but that makes me okay.
Well, they are the weakest gravitating, attractive forces in the universe. So.
Well, yeah, but I don't have a basis of comparison or study to claim something super. Like I know when Goku becomes a Super Saiyan, there's a significant change in his appearance. I can't speak to what a super strong magnet might be for Motorola.
Okay, but how strong is the connection? I guess is my question.
So it takes both hands to pry off the speaker dock. Like you can't just get a thumbnail in there and pop it. You have to be holding on to both devices, and it's a deliberate action to peel them apart. And once you snap something on, it feels like an attached part of that phone. It
like
feels,
a part of the phone. Okay.
It doesn't feel like something's wiggling or wobbling back there. So, obviously with some of the backplates, they have custom backplates where you can use wood panels or different types of materials to make the back of your phone fancy. Those have more flexibility. Those have more give. So they're a little easier to peel off. But the projector dock that snaps onto the back feels like one cohesive unit with the phone. I think it's very well implemented, and it's easily able to handle the weight of the phone. So as you're holding from like the speaker dock, or you're holding from the projector dock, the phone doesn't feel like it's ever going to slide out or it's ever going to flop off or anything like that. I think it's very well implemented.
And those those motor mods, they run on their own power. They have their own batteries, which is why they're so fit.
Some of them do. So the speaker dock, I don't think all Moto mods will work this way.
No, but the speaker dock has, I mean, you gotta say that the Moto Z's 2600 milliamp battery is not going to be able to run such a projector or like.
Right, and so there was definitely some forethought when it came to. The JBL speaker dock, I think, has a battery that can run for 2 or 3 hours of playback before it affects your phone battery, because it'll eventually start pulling power from your phone. Right. And then the projector dock, I think they said had like up to 10 hours of playback off the battery built into that.
It could be the other way around, I think.
Or those might be swapped. You're right.
Yeah. But even so, the thing that really concerned me was if the connection was going to be strong enough, it seemed like it would be too strong for human hands. But if it was going to be weak enough for human hands, it didn't seem like it would be strong enough. But I guess that's you're the only one that had hands-on time, so that's why we have to.
Well, I think it's all about finding that balance. I think it's all about finding that spot in between. Right. Because I mean, there are industrial magnets that human hands will never pry them off of a metal surface once they attach to something. Like like an MRI. If you have any metal near an MRI, that's a deadly situation. So what I think Motorola has found a good balance for is is that it requires a deliberate action. They're not difficult
Okay.
to remove, but you're not likely to do this accidentally. And
Gotcha.
so this goes along with in the Q&A from Panzer Z, you know, how strong the videos make it seem like you can take these covers off pretty easily. And when looking at the covers, I think the covers are easier to take off because the covers themselves will flex. So you
Yeah.
can pry and kind of peel a little bit easier. But that speaker dock is not flexible at all. So
Right.
it requires you to kind of pop all of the magnets at once. And it is a much more deliberate action to remove that one of those harder docks, or one of the battery docks, I should say, for how those magnets attach and align.
The other thing I wanted to ask was, in your hands-on video, it almost seemed like it seems like that the Moto Z is designed to have some type of Moto mod attached to it. It almost seems like the phone looks like it's missing a piece until you attach one of those mods to it, until like all the seams seem to come together. And just from a design standpoint, can you speak to that?
I absolutely agree. I think you know, this is still sort of playing into the. So I think when it comes to the Motorola Z, the Moto Z, sorry, this really does seem to be a Lenovo-influenced device. I mean, we've seen a number of those Lenovo ThinkPads where maybe the battery life's a little lean, but they were trying to make the thinnest, sleekest, most portable device ever, and that came at the expense of extra battery. And for people who want extra battery life, they've got quick charging solutions, or you can find some kind of, you know, additional battery or backup battery solution. And that really does speak to me what the Moto Z was built around. We made this the thinnest possible phone, and then it's up to you to make it the phone you want it to be. And for some people, if you have just sort of very basic usage, you just need to cover the basics on a smartphone, then maybe you're fine just slapping a cover on there. And then that plays into the Motorola aesthetic of you designing the phone that fits your personal style. And so maybe it's a wood panel back, maybe it's a carbon fiber back, or maybe it's a leather back, whatever backs that they initially release, or what color options that they have, you can make it that fit for you. And then for other people out there, if you have very specific usage concerns, I hope to see a recording interface built into a Moto mod. I hope to see camera equipment. There was no camera equipment for show. There's this one little quick tease of what looked like a camera grip during the keynote, but they didn't have anything hands-on to show what their photography or video solutions might be.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'd heard rumors about like the 10x optical zoom edition and stuff like that. I was really interested in seeing something like that, but
there was this there were people on the show floor talking about these like really left field outlandish rumors, like, well, maybe Hasselblad, you know, medium format camera manufacturer, might partner up with Motorola and Lenovo, just like Leica did with Huawei. And I don't know how likely that is, but I do believe that very quickly after the release of this phone, we'll probably start hearing word about some kind of photography battery grip. I mean, even if it's just that to start, I think that'll get the ball rolling on maybe another company. I would love to see an Olympus walk in and develop a Moto mod so that you can attach Olympus lenses to your camera. I think there's every possibility for some really interesting work to happen, and their MDK, their Moto mod developer kit, seems to be pretty accessible. They're hosting $1 million prize for their favorite Moto mod, and it's going to be partly judged by Ashton Kutcher.
Right.
That has to draw people in, right?
That's a big deal. So
super big deal.
I tweeted yesterday. I said, you can just go ahead and make the check out to me because I'm going to develop a Moto mod with a headphone jack. Boom.
I mean, like, you know, if we're going to continue that whole shots fired thing, we don't have the LG Friends DAC here in the United States. There's a huge opportunity for Motorola to appeal to audiophiles. Develop a really high quality DAC amp combo that then doesn't live as a separate lump in your pocket. It just attaches to the back of your phone. Yeah. And so I did feel bad for Ashton during the keynote, though, because there were a couple transitions that didn't seem very well rehearsed. There's this one moment, I felt bad for him, I really did. There's this one moment where they were sort of done with him, but no one said anything. And so he just sort of stood there and then
just wandered off stage, like, okay, thanks, bye.
I've been in situations like that on a much, much smaller scale.
It was somewhat tough seeing the CEO of Lenovo, Yuan Yang, be up there. And, you know, there are differences between the presentation with Chinese and American audiences, and he makes that very, very clear.
Yes, yes, he does.
Every single time talking about, oh, well, my Silicon Valley friends tell me that I should introduce this person onto the stage, so why not introduce them? And presentation-wise, I mean, it could have gotten better, but you know what? The demos were what we wanted to see on stage or off stage in the case of the bendable phones, but
and I have to say though, for an East meets West company like Lenovo, I think they actually did a very good job. You know, there wasn't a lot of fat on this. There were just some awkward transitions. And like you're right, Jules, we got great looks at a number of forward-facing strategies coming from Lenovo. They're very interested in becoming a services solution, that their hardware should serve an actual application or app or product or some type of data service, not just be a solution unto itself. And I think they realize their place in this market, especially, you know, he was very frank about talking about how the PC market is becoming extinct, and how we need to be moving into better interactions with products and services moving into the future. And you know, this really did showcase a number of potential strategies and potential technologies that people could use to take advantage of this.
Yeah, a lot of that show, a lot of the beginning of the show was like, the future's going to be really great. And we're just like, okay, move on. Let's announce something.
Are you going to bring the future to us? Like,
yeah, are we gonna get a taste of that like today, or are you just gonna, you know, show us, I don't know, Futurama for the next, you know, hour and a half or so?
Well, but it was
getting a little long.
So well, no, I mean, there definitely were some moments where it's like, we get the point, we can move on from here. But I have to say, considering some of the things that they needed to announce and they needed to address, for the most part, I thought it was handled well, especially being in the audience. Little things like when those Moto Mod videos were popping up, the crowd was really getting into that stuff. It's hard to tell when you're watching the keynote remotely, but there were a couple like stand up and applause moments when people were showing some of these new setups, and then also from the business side, there were a number of businesses there at the Lenovo Tech World to talk about like server infrastructure and stuff like that. And there was some really key developer stuff, which really isn't our beat on Pocketnow.com, that had people out of their chairs too. You know, again, there was a really good energy for the crowd there. People there were really interested in what was going on. Going through a few more of these questions and comments in the Q&A here. Joel GJ, I'm happy that Lenovo is staying stock plus. From what I see, is there anything otherwise? It's really difficult for us to comment on pre-release software, but it really does seem that Motorola is going to be holding to that aesthetic of utilizing a largely stock Android interface with a couple sort of tweaks and additional benefits that live on top, like the sensors on the front face of the phone that you can use to interact with gestures. And the camera app actually got a pretty sweet little update as far as I'm concerned, because Motorola cameras are typically pretty terrible. This one seemed imminently more usable, even though it was a pre-release demo unit.
A quick question about those sensors, too. The front panel of the phone, there are those two little pock marks that are like to the left and right of the sensor, the fingerprint sensor.
Top and bottom, I think.
Top and bottom. Oh, well,
yeah,
what do you think?
There are sensors all over the front face.
There's kind of a thing there going.
Yeah, that was it kind of had a feel of like incomplete hardware with those sensor ports on the front. I don't know. Maybe that's how it's ultimately going to look, but yeah, I wasn't a fan of the 4 ports, the 4 dots in the 4 corners of the phone.
Well, what I'm hoping that they might be able to address or just subtly refine is the look or the shape of the fingerprint sensor. That I think is going to draw a lot of ire from the people on our channel, because we have on-screen controls and then we have this square under the screen, and you need the extra bezel at the bottom. If you have all these sensors built into the phone, you can't just eliminate bezel space.
Right.
So that needs to be there. But we don't have capacitive controls, and this fingerprint sensor doesn't seem to act as any kind of home button. So it does stick out, and it feels like it should click. Like the entire first couple minutes, and I'm holding this phone trying to demo it, and I keep going back to the home button. I'm doing that really obnoxious like Samsungification thing where I've been trained by another company to like click in, and it's like, oh, that doesn't work. I have to reshoot this part of the video again.
Yeah, I actually had the same thing with the HTC 10, because that's the home button that doesn't click. And
exactly.
It takes a while to get used to that.
At least with the HTC 10, it's an always-on sensor that takes you home.
Right. Oh, the Moto isn't like that?
No, the Moto doesn't take you home.
Is that like just on the off chance that you need to unlock your phone or buy something?
Well, and it's by design in that they can't put the fingerprint sensor on the back, and the phone is way too thin to build it into a side-mounted power button.
Right.
So the only place left is under the screen, and it's
still give us some.
Would they have room for capacitive keys? No.
Well, I don't think I really don't think they can build capacitive keys and keep those chin-mounted sensors. So I think the on-screen controls are a necessity. But if you're going to have that home button out there,
it's got to go home.
It's got to go home. That's where. I mean, I shouldn't even be calling. See, and look at that. I'm calling it a home button. It's not a home button. Well, it's not a button. It's a fingerprint sensor.
Yeah.
You are Edward Sharp, and we are the Magnetic Zeros.
It makes me wonder if there's going to be like a software setting in there, kind of like a 1+1-esque type of thing, where you can set the fingerprint sensor to go home, or you can maybe even set it to do something else. Maybe.
And I really hope that we do see, like on Huawei's, where you can use it as a gesture to pull your notification shade.
Yeah.
If you could use it as a shortcut for something like that, or a way to easily toggle a voice assist or a now on tap or something like that.
Yeah.
There's potential, and I hope they expand on it, but there wasn't anything for us to report from the show floor as to how that functioned. So I've got another Q&A from John Matthews. He says, hey, dibs on first question, where's the speaker on the Moto Z, and will there be a GSM version coming to the U.S. in the fall, or is it just global besides the U.S.?
It's a good question, the first one. Anyway. Actually, both good questions.
Both good questions, John. You're on point. You're keeping us on point, John.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't actually answer your question first, because you did have first dibs. So when the speaker on the Moto is doing exactly what I have been asking manufacturers to do for years now, where the top earpiece speaker is the front-facing speaker on the phone. There is no back speaker.
Okay, is it just the one front?
It's just the one. Again, we don't have room to build in, and we'd have to build in a double chin if we wanted stereo speakers. But it is pointing in the right direction.
Body. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. But it really goes to your point, Adam, that it's just good enough. Everything about the Moto Z this is the base smartphone. So it was really difficult to get any sense of what that speaker could do on the show floor, because there's a lot of stuff happening all around you. But even for like trying to play videos or music, I would worry just a little bit about the power of that speaker for things like notifications and ringtones, because it's just like this is the base speaker, and we're going to have other solutions like this speaker dock if you really want to blast out your audio. So there are some concerns there that we'll have to address once we actually have one of these things in-house to review. During the hands-on video, I actually was able to fire up one of our videos, and I'm pointing the phone at my camera, so you should be able to hear, and you can't hear me at all. And then I slap on the speaker dock, and
even facing backwards, it was noticeably louder.
Even facing backwards, it was immediately picked up by my camera microphone. So, again, we've got some pretty important questions to answer when it comes to that kind of hardware and lifestyle features. But the one thing that I don't have a very clear grip on right now is going to be their release strategy. As far as I know, we're starting off with the Droids, and so in the United States, when this thing finally does launch, it's going to be a Moto Z and Z Force Droid edition going to Verizon. And I'm pretty sure that for the United States, the first ones we're going to get are going to be unlocked units. I don't know what other relationships they might have with like other carriers like AT&T or T-Mobile. Outside of those Droids, it really seems like there are only going to be GSM versions of this phone. I don't think there's going to be a Sprint version of this phone being manufactured, because it's not going to be a Droid, and I don't think Motorola has any intention of offering up. I could totally be wrong here, so this is speculation, but I don't think Motorola has intentions of building out a separate CDMA model specifically for Sprint.
Yeah. Okay. So were there any other phones there that were worth talking about, or was it just Moto Z?
Well, there were a couple others.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, before Jules, before we move on to the Fab, we should mention that the Z Force is probably going to be a phone that a number of people in our audience are really going to be interested in, simply because it's a little bit thicker.
Yeah, that's the bigger one.
Significantly larger battery, and it's got the durable screen technology that we saw in the Droid 2. So they're claiming it's a shatterproof screen. It was great. I was sitting at this table. They had these like glow box tables where they had all the reviews, and it really screwed with my camera's exposure. It was really difficult to shoot. But I'm sitting next to this guy from India. And he's taking Moto Z Forces, and he's just whipping them into the table. And I want to find. I mean, like, there have to be YouTube videos out there. I want to find what channel this guy's on, because it's like we're all trying to review or trying to go hands-on and shoot video of these devices, and like no compunction, no decorum. He's talking into this little like lavalier mic plugged into like a point-and-shoot camera, as he's just like, and you can see, and the screen, it's not shattered, and you're like, oh my god. What are you doing?
Well,
this is not that type of demo, guy. This is not that type of demo.
They have that kind of compunction, so good on him for trying.
But if he gets the exclusive, I mean, more power to him. But one of the other interesting things is in addition to all these specs getting just a little bit bigger, obviously the phone design can't change significantly because they all have to use the same Moto mods. And that means that we can be pretty confident that we know what next year's Motos are going to look like, too, if they have to use the same hardware.
Yeah, definitely.
Building phones around what accessory compatibility there is. But the Moto Z Force also bumps up to a higher resolution camera, which I thought was interesting. We go from a 13 megapixel camera on the Z to a 21 megapixel camera on the Z Force. Which,
maybe just more room because it's thicker or something, or
like I think with some of these 12 megapixel sensors, we've worked out some of the shenanigans and the issues for depth. For how deep these lens and camera modules are, and maybe we just haven't done that with higher resolution sensors. I don't know, but for whatever reason, they thought Motorola, made an effort to bump up the specs on that one, on that point too. So it could be interesting coming down the pipe. But again, with all of the popularity that we've seen from the Droid Turbo 2, at least it looks like Motorola fans not on Verizon will soon, not at launch, but will soon have options to also get the benefits of that shatterproof screen. And I know a lot of people are going to be stoked about that.
That'll be nice. That will be very nice.
Can't wait until the fall.
Yeah, I mean, it should be pretty exciting.
So, or as somebody put it, we're going to launch on Verizon exclusively in the summer, and then everywhere else in the fall when nobody cares.
Well, we have I'm trying to dig through the Q&A here, but Joel GJ writes he thinks the Verizon exclusivity will increase demand for the phone when it becomes unlocked. And what do you think? What do you think your thoughts on that, Adam? Do you think that if the Droid edition comes out and gets a bunch of positive buzz, that sets the stage and the talking points for GSM models to follow?
Well, there's a couple of things there. First of all, Jaime Rivera yesterday, I don't know, I can't verify this, maybe he's got something I don't, but apparently something with Verizon phones have to be force unlocked, or can be force unlocked, or they are all they're all supposedly unlocked, so you can pick up a Verizon phone, pop an AT&T SIM into it, and go to town. I can't confirm that. So, is that true? Okay, awesome.
I don't believe that's true for every phone. I don't. But starting back, when I was reviewing the Lumia Icon, it was a very quiet, like hush hush. Yeah, and if you put like your T-Mobile SIM in there, it works too.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I never heard that before, so awesome.
Sprint is the only one that still does the whole locking thing.
But I can't always speak to whether or not all LTE bands are supported. But,
true that. But the other thing is, sure, you're building up this anticipation with this Verizon-only launch, but you're also going to be launching this phone after the next Nexus. You're going to be launching it after the Galaxy Note. You're going to be launching it after potentially the next iPhone. I mean, how is that a good strategy? I know there was money involved, and I know that, fine. I just wish that, to me, carrier exclusivity is right in that same ballpark as invite systems for buying, and can we just please sit at the big kids table for a while? Can we
Well,
not do this exclusivity
Yeah,
stuff?
absolutely. And we already know, we can already predict what a number of our viewers are going to say about that. I mean, we're in the process of wrapping up our Galaxy S7 active review. That's a phone that worldwide would be a very popular unit, but it's an AT&T exclusive device.
exclusive.
And not just that there's a flavor of it which is exclusive to AT&T, it's that the rugged Galaxy S is worldwide only available on AT&T. You know, so it's not like you can get a Galaxy S7 Tough edition or something like that in the UK. It's that this thing is properly stuck on one carrier in the United States.
Yeah, that's also messed up. But anyway, am I wrong? But didn't the S Active line have a different carrier variant one year? Wasn't it like the
S5 Sport for
the
Sprint?
S5 Sport for Sprint? Okay, yeah. So I wasn't crazy on that. So
And
I
there
mean,
are
it's
rumors
possible.
of an S7 Sport for Sprint as well. So
There you go. It's
Those typically are made out of different materials. Like the
Yeah.
the S5 Sport was a metal back phone, just like the S4 Active was. I
Right.
believe.
Well, that's true. That's true. But,
Again,
you
I
know,
think it's because I think we have the Active because AT&T is commissioning Samsung to do this, not because Samsung is making this phone and AT&T has signed them to an exclusivity deal on that. I'm
Right,
not splitting hairs on this, but you know, if like Orange in the UK wanted to carry an exclusive Samsung durable phone, I'm sure they could strike out a deal with
Yeah.
Samsung to achieve that. It's just whether or not they feel they can make money on that based on how much they're going to pay per model unit on a niche phone that
Exactly.
that's not going to be one of their more popular sellers. But AT&T has this vested interest in catering to corporate job site construction. You know, they have to have a solution for those markets, and increasingly you can't get away with just like, well, here's a $50 Kyocera. You know, like you need to have something that can actually step up.
And geocachers. Don't leave out geocachers.
and all the moms, remember, you got that sandy gold collar.
I can't tell you
Moms
how many
do that.
Galaxy S6 Actives I sold for AT&T and Samsung by showing that phone off to parents. That was a super popular phone in my circle of friends last year. So those on AT&T, when I was showing them, like, yeah, and it's this, and it's a bit more durable, and it's water resistant, and like you have kids, and they get sticky.
It was a damn good phone. But anyway, so can we transition over to the
Yeah, let's transition over to the Fab. Just one more from the Q&A from Joel GJ. Are the Moto mods ARA based? And I can't believe that they are. I think this is a
No, they
completely
aren't.
different
The
system.
connections that are used in the ARA are Unipro. They're universal, and they have like some sort of 11.9 gigabit per second connection speed. I'm not sure what the 16 connection dots are supposed to bring, but yeah, that's
1 gigabit per dot, man.
Yeah, but I mean, a completely different platform, and then also Project R is going to usher in an era of Android where Android will start to handle hardware like your PC does. You know, drivers that allow you to plug and play things into it in a very organic way. This is still very much Motorola has to develop the solution where the hardware talks to the phone uniquely and specifically. So I don't believe that this is even loosely based on what Motorola's Skunkworks division was doing with ARA. I think this is a separate solution. And to that point, King Winter also writes, do you think in a few years we will build phones like we build PCs? I think next year we'll have the ability to do that with Project ARA. So I think that's coming down the pipe.
You won't be able to go down to your Micro Center and do it, but hey.
You know, you go to a lunch wagon and do it.
You go to a lunch wagon in Puerto Rico.
So
no, they're not going to Puerto Rico. But anyway.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So one of the most fascinating things about this this Lenovo Tech World was we of course knew we were under embargo, so we knew that the Phab 2 Pro was going to be coming down the pipe. We knew a lot of the talking points about Project Tango, the Google's augmented reality. It's no longer Project Tango, it's just Tango. That this was all going to be coming for Lenovo Tech World. Immediately, one of the first things that I want to bring up, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Adam. I thought it was fascinating that their initial discussion of the Phab 2 Pro was centered on the fact that this is going to be coming to United States sellers, that an unlocked model is going to be going to Best Buy. They have a partnership with Lowe's for augmented reality decorating services and construction services, that Lenovo is making a push with the Lenovo brand into North America at the same time as they're leveraging the Moto brand to reach customers that are already here. And I was wondering what you thought about Lenovo trying to make inroads like that.
Well, it's interesting, especially for Lenovo, which is a company that's not really known for phones in the United States. So I think this is centered around a couple of different things. First of all, Lenovo does want to establish a sort of a beachhead in the United States. And well, they should. And also, I think this is also to push a lot of Project Tango, or excuse me, Tango. This is meant to push this Tango technology out into places like Lowe's and into this augmented reality type stuff that people are going to be using. And they're doing a lot of things right. They're doing the price point on this gigantic monster of a phone.
Yeah,
like $499 for the unlocked version for a 6 point. I mean, just the fact that it's a 6.4-inch screen. Good God,
all
it's going to be.
Of them are 6.4 inches. That's
yeah,
crazy.
It's gigantic. And now, was that $499 price point? Which Fab 2 was that for? Was
That's
that
the
for
Fab 2 Pro.
That's the Fab 2
That
Pro.
was for the Pro. That's crazy.
The rest of them, there are two others, the Fab 2 and the Fab 2 Plus, and they're all standard non-Tango phones. And they're 6.4 inches, but one's at full HD and one's at 720p.
Wait. Actually, I missed that part of the demo. So the other two Fab 2s are not Tango enabled?
Yeah, the Pro is the
No,
one that
yeah,
moves
it's
us into
just-
Tango and moves us up to a Quad HD screen.
Oh, that's an awful idea. But anyway, all right. So I take
Well,
that
for the
back.
sake of argument, you could forget those two. I mean, they spent most of their stage time talking about the Fab 2.
Oh yeah,
Fab 2 Pro, not the Fab Pro 2.
I was only tangentially aware of the other two phones, until I read it on Pocketnow. But anyway, but just the fact that they're putting it out there at such a great price point for such a looks like a really great phone. Tango aside, I think they're doing a lot of things right in that regard.
Look at that Juan Carlos shooting that Nerf gun with.
Nice.
Yeah, so they had these. I mean, so this is something that I've been, sort of very vocal about, especially after we started seeing HoloLens demos. Is that while virtual reality is very, very cool today and it creates this awesome immersive experience, that once you start playing with augmented reality, there are just so many more immediate
practical applications.
But then gaming stuff is a different kind.
Yeah,
really cool. So they had.
What were you seeing at that Nerf tournament? I guess.
Were you shooting virtual Nerf darts?
No, so they had these Nerf guns that they converted with cradles that when you pulled the trigger it would activate the blaster in your game. And it's using Tango, and it's using the camera to inform the visuals that you're looking around. And then built into the depth of that space, these aliens would sort of like Predator style uncloak, and you would have to find them and track them.
Oh, that's awesome!
In real space, in real time. And then when you'd pull the trigger, you would shoot these lightning bolts that would either hit the alien and you'd kill the alien, or then sort of lightly ricochet off of the real walls and structures that you were walking around.
That's awesome.
We're talking about a $500 phone that is running this demo on pre-release software, and it's running really well. I mean, there are the occasional little lags and stutters, and the game's not super complex, but it's instantly engaging because you're looking for these little cloaked warbles of alien life, and then you start blasting at them and they uncloak and they try and attack you. And I mean, it's instantly captivating. It's almost like you had like a scanner, and that's how you were gonna view the world through this filter, this lens.
So I wrote an editorial about Project Tango, Tango. Although actually I might maintain my stance by calling it Project Tango, just in sort of a protest. But anyway, read the article, you'll find out why. But I wrote it, and it seems like Project Tango is a lot like HoloLens. And have you done a HoloLens demo, Juan?
I have, yes.
Okay, so can you, having done both, can you kind of lay out, are they basically the same? Are there major differences between the two? Or
you know what I would say? Sorry, excuse me. My voice might actually die on us here, guys. I would say that when we're looking at Tango compared to HoloLens, it's a little synonymous to the comparison we might levy between a really nice Google Cardboard or Samsung Gear VR headset and then an HTC Vive.
Okay. Oh.
So
all right.
so you can create a very interesting and immersive experience. I think like gaming is kind of fun on Cardboard, and I think the Gear takes it to a higher level, but it's not going to be the same kind of completely immersive, high-end gaming experience that you can get from an HTC Vive.
Like, there's no headset for it or anything yet, at least.
No, it's that you view everything through the phone, and that still has immediately amazing and fascinating implications for how we can interact with data and services. And I think automatically the next step is, can we now build this into a pair of glasses and succeed where Google Glass really failed us for, discrete notifications and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay.
So, but I mean, like, it's not a perfect analogy, but I think that that's a similar analogy that Cardboard very easily engages a consumer base with virtual reality and starts a discussion. And I think Tango will do the same.
We'll continue.
You are going to have a hard time explaining augmented reality to the masses, but if you can discreetly build this stuff into phones that people were going to buy anyway. So once it starts spreading even just a little bit wider, and I'm sure Google has, designs to be building this into a future Nexus, working with Samsung or HTC or other carriers and partners to start including this hardware so that it becomes a broader platform. When it's just in your phone anyway, and you don't even think about it, you just take it for granted that you can pick up your phone and scan your living room and say, I want a coffee table there. How big a coffee table should I get? And it automatically draws the volume of a coffee table in the middle of your living room. You don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Consumers won't need to be explained to as to what augmented reality is. They'll just start using it. And that's what I think is exciting. I think HoloLens is going to have that top-down approach, just like the Vive. Businesses and corporations, engineering firms, graphic design, they're going to launch onto this thing because they get it. They know what they can do with this already. Gamers are going to be interested in, like, I want a Minecraft all over my living room. That's awesome. That's totally what I want to do. But the general consumers out there, I think, are still going to be a little hesitant to strap a computer to their head and to their face, but their phones are instantly accessible.
Different conversation. So was there any talk there from anyone from Google about their various partnerships with other OEMs? I mean, the Phab 2 is the only one that's going to be phone that's going to be actually the Phab 2 Pro is the only one that's going to be taking on Tango properties. But what about other phones in the future? Because that's basically the crux of my article is, unless there's other OEM support here, Project Tango is probably going to be labeled a gimmick, if not worse.
Yeah, in talking with people at the event, most of the people there were Lenovo. So, I didn't get any FaceTime with Google engineers on this one. I got to speak to a lot of people at Qualcomm. I got to speak to a lot of people at Motorola and Lenovo. And it's like, this is a Motorola Lenovo event, so why would I ask them? So Jeffrey at Lenovo, will this also show up on the Samsung?
Right, but one third of their presentation there was all about Project Tango. So I mean, presumably they should be ready to talk about it and how they're going to push this forward. Granted, a $500 super phablet is a great way to push it forward, but it's a phone that what 1%, 2% of the smartphone market is going to buy.
Oh, probably less than that.
Probably less.
I think this is, and again, this is why I can't really comment beyond who I did get to speak to, because from Google's perspective, I'm sure they are probably working on what other deals they can arrange to start utilizing this hardware on other devices. But I'm not gonna get the scoop on that, unfortunately, at a Lenovo branded event. And even if I had been able to speak to a Google engineer, I think they'd be more inclined to say, this is the product that's actually coming out. And when other things start coming up in the pipeline, then we can discuss more then. We'll get that PR spin. But I think what's interesting here, again, taking it back to that original point, is that there is going to be a significant presence where if you go to a Best Buy, you'll be able to play with one. Lowe's wants to set up kiosks where you can actually utilize these services in real time so that people can see what the benefits might be. And that's something that we've talked about. We talked about this with you in the past on a podcast too, Adam, that, for a Huawei to make an amazing phone and then never put boots on the ground to show Americans what it can do means that the phone is irrelevant. And here we've got Lenovo striking, and it's not even like, well, we're planning on doing this and we might do that and maybe we'll set up a mall kiosk or a Lenovo store in a mall in New York. It's no, we've got partnerships set with Best Buy, with Lowe's, so that people will instantly see what it is that this brings to the table. And I think that could actually spur on a lot more mindshare for Lenovo in this space.
I sure hope so.
It's good that there's the bifurcation between Moto, which is more consumer-oriented, and then you have, well, it's not necessarily, business enterprise, but, I mean, for those that who assign a specific use, who productivity, sort of, I mean, like, they're pitching it as a home improvement kind of thing where you're taking measurements, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, there is that part of the consumer segment. I'm not sure what to call it though, but it's business plus is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah. But again, it's finding a number of solutions and a number of opportunities to really present and pitch this thing appropriately. And again, like I was saying, this is one of those technologies I really think, while VR is super cool, and like I said, it's immersive and it closes you off to the world around you and you enter a new world. I think that's slick. I think augmented reality is going to impact every single service that we interact with. And Agreed. It's going to do it in a much more organic way than other things. Like, you kind of have to learn how to acclimate to a smartwatch. I really do believe that when you can organically pick up a phone and the phone just starts scanning information around you, like depth location and motion tracking, and you didn't have to teach it or train it or set up sensors around your home so that it could track points, more accurately. That is going to be one of those it just works situations. I think consumers are going to pick it up and they're going to just do this, and like, I can check out my bedroom and I want to put a poster on the wall and I want to see what this does. And now my kid's going to pick it up and they want to learn about Velociraptor, and so a little Velociraptor pops up on the kitchen table and they can spin it around and they can interact with it. That's going to be just a very easy transition into getting to people to think about some of these different opportunities to interact with software and services.
Yeah. Absolutely, 100% agree. I saw a demo a long time ago, actually, in my WebOS days, of an augmented reality type of software where you could open up a magazine, aim your phone at it, and the article of the magazine would actually come alive and play like a video, stuff like that. It's going to be one of those things where it's going to integrate into your daily lives, and it's going to be pretty awesome when it gets here, and I hope it gets here soon. And Tango looks like it's a good
I think it's the right first step. I had a Loot Crate where they had this little sensor on the box. It wasn't a sensor, this little icon on the box, and you loaded this app, and it would create this little like cityscape, and you could look through your phone window, and it would blow things up, and that was really cool. Tango takes us to that level where you don't have to have any location points or special sensors or special icons for that stuff to happen. So Kyle Ruggles in our Q&A writes, imagine 3D scanning or fitness. You can scan yourself in 3D using your phone and compare 2 months later from now. I mean, imagine that information tying into like your Fitbit or your...
That sounds awful. But anyway.
I mean, a lot of us are, like all of us on the Pocketnow team are probably carrying just a little extra punch than we should be.
And I think all three of us simultaneously just...
I'm sucking in. So and once this thing is just sort of naturally and organically built into the cameras that we're going to be using anyway, I think it just catches on like wildfire. So I'd be very surprised if we didn't see Tango-style projects from major manufacturers over the next year. I'll be shocked if Samsung doesn't have something out the door sometime next year.
You know what? I could honestly see a Note being a Tango type enabled phone.
Absolutely.
Where the next Note, maybe not the next one, that might be a little bit too soon, but the Note
8.
What are we on? 7, 8, 9. The Note 8 next year comes out. I could see that being a Tango enabled phone just because it would be awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, like there are definitely some questions that we have to ask about the Phab 2 Pro. I'm not as familiar with the Qualcomm 652 processor. A lot of people have been asking about that. As far as I know, it benchmarks very similarly to a Qualcomm 808, which I think is fine from a performance standard. It's not going to be a hardcore gaming monster, but it tackles just about every sort of lifestyle use that you could throw at it fine.
Yeah.
It's got the right amount of RAM. It's got big storage, 64 gigabytes of storage on tap. The higher resolution screen, which on that screen size, I think actually does provide a little bit more of a benefit with a Quad HD display. And so, like Kyle Ruggles in the Q&A writes, judge it without Tango alone. Is it worth it for $500? And without Tango, it's not going to be a $500 phone. So I would say it's probably appropriately priced, considering the bleeding edge technology that we've got on board. And when you separate out the bleeding edge technology, well, then you've got a Phab 2 Plus, not a Phab 2 Pro.
Right.
And there will be a lower price point for that.
I'm excited for it.
I'm really stoked. I'm really hoping that we'll be in early on, because even just some of the silly demos, and if for anyone who's listening to this podcast or checking the show out, because this phone is huge, it's so big. You have to check out our hands-on video, because I'm in the middle of setting up a tripod and I'm trying to use this phone, and I've got my tiny little hobbit hands, and I'm holding this monster 6.4-inch screen, and I'm trying to do like stuff on the display while showing the augmented reality features, and I'm kind of struggling a little. I mean, like, it's hard to balance all of that and make a good-looking video. And this tiny little Asian woman who barely spoke any English just comes running up and like grabs the phone while I'm holding it with one hand, she's holding it with another, and then using her other hand to interact with stuff on the screen. And it was maybe the most hysterical moment I've had on a show floor since I started talking about and covering technology products. It's just ridiculous.
Nice.
And so that's a part of the video that we put out for our hands-on, so you definitely have to check that out.
I will. So that's it. That's all that's happening, right?
Yeah, I don't think anything else in the world happened. We have editorials on Pocketnow.com. We did get a couple sneak peeks at things like some of their bendable screen tech. But to shift gears pretty majorly, one of the things that I wanted to kind of pick your guys' brain about is what Apple might have coming down the pipe. So this is a hard transition, guys. And thank you everyone for folks writing messages and questions in the Q&A. We might not be able to get to all of them, obviously, but if there's something really pressing that you want to know about the phone, drop us a comment on our hands-on videos. I'm going to be picking through comments over the weekend. Hit our comments on pocketnow.com or hit our podcast at pocketnow.com email address, and we'll probably be doing a light follow-up on next week's podcast just to answer any other additional questions that people think we missed. But WWDC, Apple's developer conference, and what we might see coming down the pipe from Apple on this preview from Adrian here, that Adrian wrote up this preview spot immediately. And one of the things that he didn't really write about, we just posted it on the show right now. I wanted to get your guys' reactions to the rumor that we might see some form of iMessage show up on Android devices.
My reaction is, no, I'm just kidding. So actually, that would be really interesting, and I think it would be a good counter move to Google's Messenger apps, whose names completely escape me right now. Hello, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow, that was embarrassing. It's only been like 4 weeks since they released it, but yeah, honestly, I think that's going to be a major point of competition to Google's new messaging services. If iMessage can come to Android, even FaceTime come to Android, I don't know, maybe.
I hate that I'm going to say this, but I really wish FaceTime would come to Android.
Well, you have it. It's called Skype. Now get used to it. Anyway.
I don't want to have to explain to my grandmother like why some people can FaceTime and some people can Skype, and so I would very much rather it just be. Again, this is what I think is fascinating.
Right.
Well, but not when it comes to the Apple side, but just having a solution for it. This is what I think is amazing. You've got companies like Google and Microsoft that are services companies that dabble in hardware, and then you've got companies like Lenovo that I think are trying to transition. They're trying to transition from just being PC manufacturers into being, like all kinds of solutions for any type of hardware, with the idea that they're also pushing into more services. And then you've got Apple, which is still, I think that Apple would consider themselves a hardware company, but now they're starting to loosen the leash a little bit on some of these services which drive sales for iPhones, because we're seeing growth in revenue for them on things like Apple Music. You know, you can't ignore Android if you're going to make money on a service. It only makes sense to have a part of that service be available to a phone platform that you don't sell.
Right. Absolutely. So, it would be interesting to see. Honestly, I get the sense that WWDC is going to be, as I mentioned in the collaborative post we did, and was reiterated on this article here. I think it's just going to be a snooze fest. I think Apple has kind of, iOS has painted itself into a corner where there's really only so much more functionality that they can introduce. I think a lot of what we're going to see is probably going to be, or at least I hope a lot of what we're going to see is going to be based around Siri and based around the personal assistant to sort of counter what Google and Amazon are doing. So maybe I don't know that we'll see I guess it would be called an iHome, but that name's already taken. So I don't know if we'll see a Google Home type of equivalent. I doubt it. That seems to be the type of thing that Apple would want to kind of see how it goes, and then maybe it'll develop its own thing later. But I just really hope that we can see a lot of marked improvements in how Siri interacts and becomes more of a personal assistant rather than just an answer spitter.
Yeah, to be honest, I am more looking forward to whatever Siri can do beyond her ethereal reach. And ultimately, I think somehow Siri has to work with Nest. Siri has to work with, well, I mean, there's HomeKit, but you have to put it all under one umbrella and just run with it, Apple, because too many. I was going to make an analogy, but I can't.
Well, no, actually, Jules, I think that's a great point, though, because isn't one of the reasons that people buy into the Apple ecosystem is because it's supposed to be this really well put together ecosystem, and so when they're coming out with new products and services, and they're also trying to incorporate what their partners, their manufacturing partners are doing, that this has been a difficult transition for a lot of companies, almost all companies out there, in trying to tie all of these pieces together. We're at the very beginning stages of Internet of Things and stuff like that. And so iOS, like you were saying, Adam, iOS is kind of locked in this one sort of usage scenario, and we see Apple really struggling to open up the platform so that it can be used more professionally, or make the platform more flexible so it can interact with other apps and services that need to move files around. Or will it be able to communicate with all of these IoT devices that are going to be coming out? And for Apple's very strict control over their product lines to maintain their own ecosystem, it makes it delivers challenges for the company when that ecosystem needs to build more broadly over devices they don't have complete control over.
Yeah, and it's a challenge that Apple's going to have to overcome, and this is the WWDC it's going to have to happen at, I think, because if it doesn't happen here, then we're going to be waiting another year, and by that point, it's going to be so mature elsewhere that there won't be any point anymore. At least how I see it.
Well, no, I completely agree. Well, and I'll never count Apple out for whatever reason. They have developed a corporate culture, a corporate ethic, which communicates to consumers very easily that it's okay if they're not right on the pulse. That they can be Apple is allowed to be late to the market in ways that no other company would ever be allowed to do.
It's okay if we're not first, because we'll just say we were anyway.
And we'll do it better. I can't wait for the people who are out there claiming that Motorola copied Apple and getting rid of the headphone jack. I know it's coming. Someone's gonna make that comment.
Everybody copies everyone.
Yeah, I mean, the notion that we're not all influenced by design and stuff. But I was wearing an Asus Zen watch before the Apple Watch came out, and then people were like, "Oh, all these Android copycats." And I'm like, but no, no.
Bad monkey.
And so there is potentially word that we might be seeing Watch OS 3 coming out from Apple. Do we think that we're going to see an Apple Watch 2 sometime this year, or do we think that this is just going to be software optimizations for the product that's already out on the market?
Well, if we see an Apple Watch 2, I don't think it'll be at WWDC. That's
True.
That's typically more of a software type convention. Although, am I crazy, or did they release the new MacBook last year at WWDC? The 12-inch with the one port.
I honestly don't remember. That might have been a WWDC, and someone in our Q&A or comments will hopefully school us on this as we stumble our way through release dates on products.
I mean, honestly, the number of Apple events that they have every year has increased by a pretty big number. It used to be just like a couple every year, and now it's like they're having an event almost every other month, it seems like. But so I mean, if there's going to be any hardware there, I think it's going to be more of the MacBook/iMac type territory. New iMacs, new MacBooks, that type of thing. We're definitely not going to see the iPhone 7. Absolutely not. We're definitely not going to see any type of iPad. So from our in Pocketnow's wheelhouse, the stuff that we're going to be seeing is software.
The 12-incher was released in a March event, I think.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Sort of like the iPhone SE.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, that kind of makes sense, actually. Now that you say that, that does actually kind of...
But I totally agree, though, there, Adam, because I think where we see Apple's growth opportunities have been on services. So I wholly expect that we're going to be hearing word on, on updates to Apple Pay. It probably won't be anything revolutionarily exciting, but, opening up new markets, new business deals, probably new relationships with banks and credit card suppliers. And then maybe even potentially some word on updates to Apple Music, we can kind of improve on that platform too, because that's still a very competitive market, one that Apple's doing well in. I mean, you have an easy way to get users of iPhones onto that service, but I think you have a long ways to go before you can kind of combat the mindshare that services like Spotify have in that space with music fans.
Another 20 minutes of Trent Reznor talking. That'll be great. What musical act will we see this year, I wonder?
Oh, good call. Someone drop us a comment below. What musical act do you think we'll see at WWDC this year? And I'm going to say Kings of Leon. That's my guess.
I got nothing, because the most recent music that I listen to is probably like, I don't know, what, Billy Joel.
I would
actually no, it's not. I'm not that bad. But,
I would kill to see like an aged Billy Joel like rock up with like New York State of Mind or Piano Man at the end of
Come on, man, it's a Piano Man. That's right.
I love it.
Hey, Mr. Cook, I'm the iPhone man. There you go. That could work.
So we get this question a lot, and I'm trying to find it again from Joel GJ. We don't get it a lot from Joel GJ. We just get this question a lot. This is coming from the Q&A. Is Apple innovation slowing down since the death of Jobs? Jobs was strict on Apple sticking to exclusivity. Do we think that opening up the market for Apple services is a sign of innovation slowing down?
I actually kind of go the other way with this. I think that Apple is trying a lot more ever since Steve Jobs unfortunately left us. I think Apple's branching out more.
I think they're responding to the market a lot more.
Yeah,
than
absolutely.
When Jobs was in charge.
And which, I mean, they both have their solid arguments, for sticking with. What you want to give the consumer versus what the market is dictating. But, I got to go the other way on that one. I got to think that Apple has become actually more, not so much innovative, but just more expansive since Steve Jobs passed away.
No, I'd agree with that, and I think what we've been seeing as a company, I think they are more apt to respond to market trends than Jobs ever would have let them. Like, I think Jobs was probably a bit more dictatorial, and this is what we're focusing on, and this is how we'll execute. I think that's come at the expense of some of the product lines, like the Mac Pro. I really wish we would see an Apple that would be a bit more competitive in markets for professionals, like that kind of hardware. Even though I know that's like that's sort of a dying market. There are still solutions like I need a workstation to get this done, and I kind of have very specific requirements for how that thing's put together.
No, iPad Pro, you could just get 9.7-inch tablet right there.
Yeah, there you go.
It's like I love coming back because for our iPad Pro 9.7 review, we did a challenge. Can I shoot and edit an iPad Pro review on an iPad Pro? And I got really close to finishing it, but I only had to fundamentally change everything about how I shoot and edit video. But I almost managed to finish that video. So things like that. You know, I think, you know, the services, what you're saying, like opening up iOS so that iOS can tackle some of these challenges. This is going to be a good year for Apple to focus on those types of solutions and those types of services so that consumers will be more likely to lean on iOS for that kind of work. And I think it's a great opportunity for them, too, if they can execute on it well.
Right.
So
Okay.
I had one more Q&A that I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on, and then we'll knock out a couple quick viewer mails.
All
And
right.
this one comes from Zane Winter. Do you think it's smart for manufacturers to sell cell phones in carrier stores or just sell them in their own store like the OnePlus and Motorola? A lot of people won't buy phones outright because of the cost up front. What do you think, Adam? Do you think that we're starting to are consumers starting to look at buying phones unlocked? We're seeing a lot of traction on phone sales on Amazon, B&H, things like that. Is the carrier dominance starting to erode?
I hope so, because that's kind of where we need to be. We need to start retraining consumers in that these phones actually do cost, between $500 and $700. And also, I think by doing that, we're also giving a much easier time to mid-range phones, which are actually becoming really good these days. So people are starting to realize that these phones that cost $700, you can get a similar value for significantly less. So that's opening up the floor for a lot more competition in the mid-range space, which is also driving innovation in the flagship space as well, because the flagships have to do that much more to get people interested. So, is it a good idea? Yes. I mean, is it a good thing? Yes. Is it a good idea? I don't know.
Yeah, the jury's still out on that one, I'm sure.
But yeah, it is a very good thing that they're doing it, and I think the carriers are starting to realize that these contracts are their days are numbered. I don't think it'll be long before we find all major carriers completely dropping contracts and just going with these subsidized phones.
Well, and most of them have already sort of dried up. I think what carriers weren't prepared for is, once consumers are empowered to understand how much these things cost with these new payment plans, it's like a zero-interest loan, essentially, but you pay like $20 a month or $30 a month, depending on how expensive your phone was. Once that phone's paid off, consumers are far more inclined to stick with that phone for longer than if they were on a 2-year contract.
Right.
And that's what I think the big players in this market weren't prepared for. And we're going to be seeing a lot more of these like trade-in deals, leasing programs so you can re-up every year, stuff like that.
I wonder what that's going to mean for those fast upgrade programs like the AT&T Next and the Verizon.
Well, that's kind of what that's I think, like, eventually we're just going to call those leasing, just like you would own a car or lease a car.
Yeah.
You're essentially just leasing your phone. Every year you've put so many miles on your phone, you trade it in for a newer model, and then you're still just paying, but you'll never own it.
Which is actually
other, like, payment programs, like once you pay it off and your bill drops by $30 a month, I don't know. I mean, people are inclined to like just kind of hang out for a little while.
Hold on to that $30.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's I mean, I think that's actually an interesting. I would like a phone leasing program. Just pay X amount of dollars, and every however many times a year you get a upgrade, or you get to replace your phone which you dropped and broke or whatever.
Right.
I'm paying more than ever without a contract than with. I'll just say that.
Yeah, well, and the math on that gets really tricky too, because the initial plans look like one thing and then become something else once you add.
Oh my! Look at this access fee.
Yeah. Oh, gross.
All right.
So, listener mails here, real quick. I've got Unicorn Workhorse up first. He says, "Hey, Dear Pocket Bros. Hey, Unicorn Workhorse. talk for crap. He says, let's face it, Android ads, as in ads for the operating system, totally suck. If I were a customer and saw this ad, it would expose me to the existence of Android, and that's all. People aren't going to get an Android phone because of Now on Tap or Android Pay. We buy Android phones because of the customizable interface and options. Which brings me to my question, how can Google advertise things like launchers and skins, or show how there is a plethora of hardware options? Will this deteriorate the Nexus campaign? Does Google even consider launchers a part of Android's goodness? With love, a unicorn workhorse.
No, you have to include that line. Come on, say it.
No.
Together, not the same.
No, by the way, Android is Bay.
Oh, on there, yeah. I was gonna help him preserve some dignity.
You know, it's interesting. A lot of the Android commercials that are out there right now are kind of pushing this. Their tagline is "Be together, not the same." Yeah. So I think that actually is kind of pointing to the idea that you can make an Android phone your own. Now they're not specifically focusing on skins or on launchers or on things like that.
I mean, specifically on devices, because did you see Grammy's commercial? With the piano on the same key, and it's
yeah. That's what I'm talking about. But at the same time, I think we need to take a step back and realize that the fact that people buy Android phones because of the customizable interface and options, it's kind of a myth. The reason people buy Android is because of Samsung. Yes. Let's just be completely honest here. The reason that people are buying, the reason that Android is so dominant in the market is because of Samsung, also the reason a lot of people. I can talk, really, I can. So your vocal issues came at the beginning. I'm going to round out the end.
I'm rubbing off on all of you guys, and that sounds crazy dirty now that I've said it out loud.
So I think Android is also the not iPhone alternative.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't want an iPhone. So which Android phone should I get? And it's long been that. So maybe at first Android was highly customizable, and we can root our phone and we can do everything we want to it, and all that other fun stuff. But I honestly think today that Android is just as mainstream, and it has just as many users who don't care about customizing as those users that want to tweak everything that Android allows.
No, I definitely agree, because I think we're seeing a lot of that traction especially on advertising coming directly from Google, is trying to appeal to that emotional side of the purchasing decision. It's less focused on trying to appeal to us techs and geeks, because they already have us.
Right.
They don't really need to advertise to us, but that really cute commercial with the paper rock scissors kids, working together, and they're a team, but they're not the same, and they come from different places.
Right.
That's an emotional appeal to the consumer base that isn't already.
It's also a shot at Apple. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's also a major shot at Apple. But
if anything, I could say is that they should be helping co-branding some advertisements with some of the smaller OEMs, because if they're not making money on Android, and most of them are not, then they may want to just run away or find something else.
Yeah.
And so they have to stop being the Samsung train and start being the HTC LG string of letters put right here.
Right. But that being said, I think it's important, unicorn workhorse, that we emphasize that Google isn't necessarily advertising to you. We've got you. So what Google is, and this is probably why you think the ads suck, is because they're not geared towards you. Maybe they could be, maybe they should be, but right now Google is trying to entice other, the same customers to be together, but not the same. So they're trying to, pull over some iPhone folks over into the Android.
So we're running a little longer than I expected this show to last. So unfortunately, the email from Haniko, I'll write you a reply, Haniko, but we won't be able to get to it on the air. And I just want to mention real quickly, Panzer Z in the Q&A thinks Kenny G should be performing at the end of WWDC.
Yes,
the only one to list a reply. He wins, and that's who's going to be at WWDC. And you only have yourselves to blame for not writing in the Q&A who else should be performing. So it's going to be smooth, soft jazz. All right.
Yes.
So, folks,
Speaking of
another
suicide,
episode of the Pocketnow Weekly has come and gone. The show is ending, but the conversation continues on Twitter, where you can find Adam Doud as @DeadTechnology. You can find Jules as @PointJules, and I'm humbly @SomeGadgetGuy. Pocketnow is around the web on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Google+, YouTube, and our home site, pocketnow.com. We're basically everywhere. Shows like this can't exist without your support, sharing the weekly with your friends who love mobile technology, and by dropping some reviews on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and wherever podcast reviews can be left. And if you're watching this on the YouTubes, hit that thumbs up button for a little extra positive reinforcement. You can write to us directly for a chance to have your questions answered live on the air using the email podcast@pocketnow.com. And once again, we'd like to thank our sponsor this week, Atlassian. They're helping us keep the lights on here. Definitely check out their product and project management software solutions. But ultimately, there wouldn't be a show if it weren't for our listeners and subscribers who have kept us on the air since 2012. The Pocketnow Weekly will be back next week with all kinds of delicious technology goodness. So make sure you check back in.